All right, so I assume that you've probably all heard of Miss America or Miss Universe, right? But do you know Miss Paper Cup, selected in 1950 by the Paper Cup Institute of America to promote their products across the country? Or what about Miss Litter of 1969, chosen by the town of Winston-Salem, North Carolina to ride around in a dump truck and drum up support for an anti-littering campaign? And who could forget good old Miss Frozen Rabbit Meat from 1957, selected to convince housewives to serve more rabbit meat. Welcome to the American beauty pageant boom. Between about 1950 and 1990, people ran beauty contests for just about anything and everything. Every small town holding a dance, every company trying to promote some product, every organization trying to garner support for whatever cause, there was a Miss Blank for just about anything that you could think of. And today, I want to show you a few of my favorites. Now, just to start us off, I'd like to explain in a little more detail how exactly these contests tended to work. There were really four main types as far as I can tell. The first is the sort of standard beauty contest. You know, some town or state or whatever picks a Miss Colorado or a Miss San Francisco. This is the type of pageant that I'm sure you're already familiar with. It's not that weird, and it's not really what we're here to talk about today. Instead, I want to focus on the stranger titles that some of these women earn for themselves, such as Miss Swamp Cabbage, a prime example of the second type of pageant winner. See, sometimes a town would name their beauty queen after something significant to their town's identity or history. Like every year, LaBelle, Florida runs a festival to celebrate a certain kind of palm tree that's often referred to as the swamp cabbage. And so why not elect a Miss Swamp Cabbage to preside over the festivities? The real fun part about this particular type of contest is that many of them still persist to this day. As far as I can tell, LaBelle, Florida still runs a swamp cabbage festival, and they still elect a swamp cabbage queen every year to this day. Next, the third type of contest winners are what I like to call the agenda queens. These are winners of beauty pageants where the whole point is to support some kind of political position or social cause. Miss Smog America, that I showed you earlier, is a fantastic example of this type. A beauty queen who was chosen to assist in the fight against air pollution. Another great example is Miss Safe Boating, selected by the U.S. Coast Guard in 1966 to promote water safety. I urge everyone who owns a boat to equip it with all the necessary safety equipment, she says. And of course, you know there just had to be a Miss War Bond from the 1940s, helping to keep the country's finances in order during World War II. And finally we come to probably my favorite out of all the pageant types, the product queens, chosen by some company to help promote whatever product they happen to be pushing at the time. Miss Frozen Rabbit Meat from earlier is a great example of this type. Same with Miss Play-Doh that I showed you from 1957. Most of the time, the newspaper articles on these queens were very short, and sometimes they didn't even bother to name the company or organization that sponsored the contest. But occasionally, we get some real nice and long write-ups that help to shed some light on the inner workings of these advertising campaigns. Like with Miss Pickle, for example, who went on a tour of the United States back in 1967 after winning a contest held by Pickle Packers International. Miss Pickle's job was to visit towns across the country and speak to the press and hang around with the local leaders and just generally try and promote pickles as best as she could. And from what I can tell, she was pretty dang good at her job. By June 20th of 1967, Miss Pickle had already made over 100 appearances on TV and radio. She had a deep repertoire of pickle jokes and nutritional pickle information that she could bust out at the drop of a hat. She knew everything there was to know about the pickle industry. She sang songs about pickles. She even got the mayor of Buffalo, New York to declare an official pickle day in his city. Her favorite talking point, though, was the idea that all of history's greatest figures loved pickles. Cleopatra thought they enhanced her beauty, and Julius Caesar fed them to his armies. And you know how Napoleon always had his hand tucked away inside his jacket? Well, according to Miss Pickle, the reason Napoleon kept his hand inside his coat was to keep his enemies from pickle poaching. He had his pickle hidden away in that jacket and he didn't want to share. All right, so now that we've discussed the 4 different types of beauty queens, here's something pretty fun that I discovered while I was putting this video together. Because there exists a contest winner for just about anything you can think of, you can kind of create your own royal families if you find enough queens that fit the theme. Like, check this out. Here is a vegetable family that I put together using a whole bunch of queens from across the country. The matriarch, of course, is the vegetable queen, who won a contest in 1954 held by the New Jersey State Horticulture Society. And under her lineage are a whole series of other winners, such as Mrs. Asparagus, chosen at the National Asparagus Festival in 1978, or the Sweet Potato Princess, pictured here serving potatoes at the Sweet Potato Festival in 1964. And of course, we also have a regular old potato queen, selected back in 1936 during a contest sponsored by the Michigan Quality Potato Growers Association. We also have Miss Ripe Tomato, crowned in Conroe, Texas back in 1978, and Miss Eggplant, who I really couldn't find much about beyond this one photo in a newspaper from 1944. Also in this royal family is Miss Hothouse Rhubarb, who won a contest sponsored by the Rotary Club of Utica, New York in 1960, presumably to encourage growing rhubarb inside of hothouses, I would assume. Apparently, the woman who won this contest also won a Miss Utica contest around the same time, and she caused this whole kerfuffle because she was asked to appear as both Miss Hothouse Rhubarb and Miss Utica in the same 4th of July parade. Ultimately, she decided to appear officially as Miss Hothouse Rhubarb, so sorry Utica, but people would rather represent rhubarb greenhouses over your entire city, apparently. Here we have a nice picture from 1963 showcasing a few of the finalists in a contest to determine Miss Sweet Corn at a festival in Newark, Ohio. And last but not least, here we have Miss Frozen Potato, sitting atop a great big pile of her favorite food in 1964. This one is a great example of just how vague these newspaper articles can be. Like, check this out. Here is the entire associated caption for this image. It says, "In Chicago, a cool gal offers reminder that February will be celebrated as Frozen Potato Month. She is Penny James, 21, of Chicago. Her title, Miss Frozen Potato of 1964. Pass the potatoes, please." Absolutely zero mention of how Miss Frozen Potato was chosen for her role or what company even sponsored her crowning to begin with. By the way, if you really wanted to, you could probably put together a whole frozen foods royal family. In addition to Miss Frozen Potato and Miss Frozen Rabbit Meat from earlier, we also have Miss Frozen Foods, pictured here in the back of a refrigerated truck, and Miss Frozen Food Locker, who is a cow for some reason. Likewise, you could probably cobble together a plumbing royal family if you wanted to put in the work. I have 3 potential entries here to get you started. We got Miss Sewer Pipe of 1947, pictured here sitting on top of a 570-pound section of sewer pipe that was donated to the city of Tampa Bay, Florida by a pipe manufacturing company. And here is Miss Plumber's Helper, chosen in 1955 by the Associated Plumbing Contractors of Los Angeles. And finally, we got Miss Dumpy 1970, aka Sewer Pipe Susie, selected in Maine during National Dump Week. I also, unsurprisingly, found a whole lot of queens in contests that have to do with health and safety, like Miss Healthy Smile here, for example, selected in 1978 by a dental society in Florida, or Miss Seatbelt from Hamburg, New York, helping to promote the sale and installation of seat belts in automobiles. She'd probably get along real well with Miss Safe Driving from down in Fort Worth, Texas. Here's one of my favorites. In 1964, the Santa Monica Chiropractic Society held a Miss Perfect Posture contest. It's kind of hard to tell from the photo, but if you ask me, I'm thinking the lady on the left should probably take home the crown on this one. That is some pretty good posture, I think. I also found an entire series of beauty queens who held the title of Miss Foot Health. From what I can tell, this was a very common thing from the 1950s through the 70s, mostly because of a whole bunch of podiatry associations who were trying to gain some publicity by running beauty contests. Now, in a second, I'm going to show you some pictures from these Miss Foot Health newspaper articles, and I'd like you to just do your best to remember that certain things have been corrupted by the internet a little bit. So back in the day, a picture like this did not really have the same implication that it might have now. Same with a picture like that, or that, or that, or that, or that, or that. Of course, we also have a lot of queens that are basically just spokeswomen in disguise as beauty queens, like Miss Rug Cleaner, chosen in 1953 at the National Rug Cleaners Convention, or Miss Automatic Gas Range, pictured here sitting on top of one of her products. Hula hoops became popular in the 1950s, so of course we have a Miss Hula Hoop, depicted here giving some lessons to some hula hoop novices. We have Miss Color Television to thank for helping usher in a whole new era of TV. Here she is with one of them fancy new color cameras. Miss Bottled Carbonated Beverage promoted soft drinks in 1955. Just look at her there, using a giant bottle opener to pop the top off that giant bottled carbonated beverage. Miss Indoor Comfort did her best to spread the word on the value of a good heating system. Sponsored by the Warm Air Heating Institute of Northern California. But you know, out of all the product queens, my favorite is probably Miss British Reinforced Concrete from Stafford, Scotland. On this one, the beauty queen trend actually crossed the Atlantic, and we got a concrete factory who wanted to get in on the action. I like this one because if you read the actual article, it says that the woman who was eventually selected to be Miss BRC didn't even intentionally enter the contest. Her friends just pushed her into the line without telling her what she was doing, and voila, just like that, she's Miss British Reinforced Concrete. In my opinion, this is one of those moments that is truly unique in human history. I feel like I can confidently say that only once has someone ever accidentally won a contest to become Miss British Reinforced Concrete. All right, before we wrap up the video, let me tell you about a few odds and ends. You know, queens that don't really fit into any kind of grouping or genre, like Miss Futuristic from 1968. I have absolutely no idea what this contest was supposed to be about. Literally the only information that I could find is this one picture of a woman in what I assume is supposed to be a futuristic outfit, along with a caption that says that she was chosen for the title because of her ability as a prognosticator. And hey, while we're talking about the future, how about Miss Futuristic Canned Goods from 1957? This queen was selected at the National Canners Association convention to, I guess, celebrate the bright future of canned goods. All right, I don't have a picture for this one, but it's just too funny to not include in the video. Apparently, Vienna, Australia held a Miss Fat Girl contest in 1970, but the eventual winner got disqualified because it turned out that she had been warned about the contest 3 months in advance, so she unfairly had time to fatten up before the pageant. All right, here's another one of my favorites. Apparently, in the 1950s, it was not uncommon for movie studios to select a Miss World premiere to help advertise the release of their new movie. These beauty queens were not actresses that were in the movie. They were just unrelated women selected to help promote the release. I feel like we need to bring this one back. Like, every time a movie gets a theatrical release, you have to hold a contest to pick some random person to come in and take the lead in advertising. Here's a fun one. When the University of Virginia opened up a new sidewalk in 1966, they elected a Miss Concrete to cut the ribbon. There she is, chopping away. Here's another whole series of queens. Throughout the early 1960s, several meatpacking organizations selected hot dog queens to go around the country and promote hot dogs in as many towns as they could, which led to some really fantastic photographs, like this one of the hot dog queen with her little hot dog earrings, or this one of a hot dog queen holding a gold-plated hot dog to celebrate her victory. Here we have a hot dog queen in Tipton, Indiana, riding around in her special hot dog car. And here's another one in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, showing the mayor how to work a hot dog warmer. And lastly, this here is my very favorite hot dog queen photo. Just check out the caption on this one. Mayor James T. Hanlon presents key to the city of Scranton to Miss Jean Gordon, Chicago, Miss National Hot Dog Month of 1960. And she presents him the key to good eating, an automatic hot dog broiler. But all right, I think it's just about time to finish out this video with a contest that isn't quite in the spirit of all the others we've been talking about, but I just want to bring it up anyway because it's such a strange little story. This is Martha Charton, who won a beauty contest in 1944. And the judges of that beauty contest were American soldiers incarcerated in a German prisoner of war camp during World War II. Apparently, all the soldiers got together, all the pictures that they had of their wives and girlfriends, and they selected who they thought was the most beautiful. And there's Martha, holding the evidence of her victory printed right there in the prison camp newspaper. I do not know how she even got a hold of that, but congrats, Martha, nonetheless. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.